today with us Professor Yasemin Bayyurt from Boğaziçi University. I know most of you know about her, but let me give you a brief information about Yasemin Hoca. She graduated from Boğaziçi University in 1989. After that, she completed her MA at the University of Lancaster in England. Then she completed her PhD in English linguistics research, again at the same university in England. She's a professor of applied linguistics in the Department of Foreign Language Education, Boğaziçi University, Istanbul. And at the same time, maybe you've heard, she is now the Dean of the Faculty of Education, yes, which is a great honor to present for me.
Thank you very much.
And she graduated from Boğaziçi University, as I said, Department of Foreign Language Education. Currently, she is involved in projects investigating ELF, AVERIN, and pre-service teacher education, telecollaboration, intercultural communication, and social media. She is recently interested in carrying out research on blended learning approach for engineering education. I can guess why she's interested in engineering education also. Yasemin Hoca has many research interests, which is impossible to count, all of them actually impossible to count, but I'll give you some of them. Sociolinguistics and world English as an international language. Now, I guess she's going to talk about her new project, which is part of ELF. Second, and foreign language teaching and learning, use of information technologies and social media in language teaching and learning, intercultural communicative competence development, which involves syllabus design and content development for mobile language learning. It goes on and on and on, so I'm going to stop here because we have a very limited time. It's over to Professor Yasemin Bayyurt. Welcome, hocam.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think some people's microphones are on. There's some sounds coming around. At the moment, I have two major, actually, interests, research interests, three majors, sorry, not so many. One is, they're all interrelated. One is on content and language integrated learning in K-12 classrooms. And the other one is English medium instruction in higher education. And last one is blended learning. Because of this change, it was blended learning. Nowadays, it is diverging into online language teaching because of, thanks to COVID-19, okay. But today I will be talking to you about a topic that's very much related to your context, our context, and the world contexts, and as many people in the field talk about it. And since in the title we talk about multilingual contexts and 21st century skills, I will try to highlight why having a perspective of 21st century skills is important in developing an alpha-aware approach to language teaching in reference to my recent, the results of my recent research project on English as a lingua franca awareness in English language teaching. Okay. Okay, I will follow this order briefly, but I will insert, a part on 21st century skills. And I like it. I'm not a direct expert on skills teaching, but I'm interested in what they say there, which informs how I develop my understanding of alpha awareness in English language classrooms. Okay, sorry. Okay, when you look at the world today and the status of English, which you are teaching in your language classrooms, we have a different perspective than the other foreign languages that other people teach, like French language teachers, German language teachers, Turkish as a foreign language teachers. English is a global language, and everybody in the world tries to learn English. And when you look at the world statistics, 1/3 of the whole population whole English-speaking population speaks English as a first language or a native language in traditional words, and 2/3 of the whole population of English language speakers speak English as either a second language or as a foreign language, like we do. And obviously, English is an international language. English as a lingua franca emerges out of use of English in ESL, EFL, and even ENL, English as a native language contexts. Okay, so there are different parts of the world. Plus, in all these contexts, you have native and non-native, in inverted commas, speakers of English. So if you think that you go to London and meet always people who speaks Queen's English, you are wrong, okay? And if you teach such English to your learners with such a view, then you are misleading your learners about the fact that in London, if they walk in the main street, in Oxford Street, Piccadilly, everywhere, they will hear people speaking Turkish and they will be disappointed, okay? They'll be disappointed about you as English teachers. Well, my teacher said that everybody speaks English with a Queen's accent, but here I hear many languages. So a correct view of English today is a global view, okay? To see it in a global perspective and thinking that there's people everywhere who speaks English, even in English-speaking countries. Think about graduate students, Erasmus students, who go abroad to study in English-speaking countries, and their first language is not English. And they sometimes stay there and do their, and even settle there. So it's a misleading conception. Okay. So as early as the beginning of 21st century, Sandra Mackay said actually this, and even before that, Larry Smith, Selinker, and many other experts in 1980s also talked about it, but they never openly admitted it, or they never openly stated it. English is the passport to modernization, global world, and a more prestigious way of life. Because if you go to, let's say, a village, a small village in Thailand, and ask in South Korea, and ask students why they are learning English, they are going to immediately tell you to have a prestigious life, to have a better job, to have such and such, to be able to travel, to go abroad, etc. You'll see that. So this is actually something that all English language learners aspire to. Knowledge of English is necessary for accessing many discourses at a global level, from international relations to popular culture to academia. And later on, the same thing is in fact referred to in David Crystal's famous book on globalization and English language, and many other references. He says English is the dominant medium of communication, and it is the language of business, technology, science, internet, and so on. And at that time, when he wrote this book in 1997, he said over 50% of all research is published in English. This was about 24 years ago. And today, 75% of research is published in English. So it's in a way quite important. It's quite widespread. Okay. So he continues to say that a language achieves a global status when it develops a special role that is recognized by every country. So a student in a small village in South Korea thinks that aspires to become a good English language speaker, to have a better job, to do this and that. So anybody else in the world does it, okay? And today in China, we have 500 million or more learners of English, just in China. And think of the rest of the world. So it is so widespread. And now, I already said that the non-native speakers outnumber the native speakers of English, which leads to the discourse of the ownership of English, for example. Whose language is English? Okay, is it the language of British, Americans, or Turkish people, or Hungarian people or Chinese people, etc. So it is, they questioned this, and it was first mentioned by Henry Williamson in 2003, and where he said, if the non-native speakers of English outnumbers the native speakers of English, who does English belong to then? Okay, this actually, in fact, led its way to different emergence of different paradigms, like English as a lingua franca is one of them. And World English is, in fact, developed in a different context in outer circle countries where English was an institutionalized official variety, for example, like in India. So they all emerged out of this context. They claimed ownership of English, like Indian English is a variety now. Filipino English is a variety now. So this actually, they have a different, obviously, historical background, which in fact gives them this I don't want to use some strong words, this idea of claiming the ownership of English. But I have doubts about how you would go about it in the Turkish context. Actually, I believe there's a Turkish variety of English, okay? The English we speak, the English I speak now, for example, even if I follow a standardized variety when I speak, when I use language, I still use Turkish intonation, Turkish way of pronunciation. I don't know. There are some Turkish features which is intelligible to all other Turkish English speakers, like yourselves, okay? So this is a legitimate variety then, okay? But this is never recognized in such a way, and I don't think I will ever claim it. I don't want to, people to faint or people to be disappointed, but it exists, okay? You can ask your native speaker, native English L1 speaking colleagues, and they are going to tell you, yes, you speak English great, in a great way, but you have some, I can hear it. But it doesn't matter when I converse, as long as you understand me. It doesn't matter. I give these talks to Brazilian people, Portuguese people, Polish people. They still understand me, okay? But it's not a problem for me. So I feel that English is my language. It is part of my linguistic repertoire. Okay, now, as I said, we live in changing times and changing English's atmosphere. So what is the situation with our classes? What is the situation with our learners? Normally, in the regular EFL era, where I completed my education and I became an English teacher, a student's life was quite linear, and it was identical to the user's life, okay? And he wanted to become like a native speaker, he or she wanted to become like a native speaker. And in order to do that, he or she had to take some exams, international or national exams. User's life was non-existent, okay? There was no use of English outside the classroom, which was the case when I was learning English when I first started secondary school in 1971. Can you imagine at that time? But this continued until 1990s, where globalization was not as widespread, as much felt as it was. And after 1990s, it in fact went on very rapidly and things started to change. And this is the time when new paradigms started to emerge. At the moment, we are in the post-EFL era, and we have a non-linear life of student. So student's life is different from user's life. So again, in the classrooms, we follow a kind of a standard variety of English, and still we want our students to become native-like. And they still take exams, international or national exams, but they also have a user life outside the classroom, even in an EFL context, which in many cases, teachers do not take into account when they are preparing their lessons. It doesn't have to be a private school or any specialized school. it could be in any school, any state school all over Turkey. This is a fact. With all the students from different socioeconomic backgrounds, they still have somehow access to use of English outside their, classrooms. And obviously these days, after for the past 10 years or so, they are also exposed to other languages, which I will be referring to at the end of my class, due to immigration from Middle East and so on. As you know, classrooms are changing, things are changing, and the students are also exposed to other languages like Arabic outside the classrooms. Users' life, as I said, is like online gaming, surfing in the internet, meeting people in the social media sites, reading texts and so on, and watching videos. It's more widespread now. And when I talked to some secondary school students some years ago during an interview, they said that in a state school, they said that they spoke with us in English for the first time. Okay, they were in 8th grade. And I was so surprised because I was expecting them not to be able to speak English that good, I have to admit, which I felt really, very bad about afterwards, because this was a prejudice. They said, well, we are not very happy about our materials in the classroom. Our teacher is wonderful. But the thing is, the reason why I speak English so good is I watch a lot of videos with subtitles. Now, I am involved in a project where they are looking at the effect of subtitles on English language learning. I am there because I'm interested in, as I said, use of technology in language classrooms. So it is actually changing. So they benefited from this subtitling and also what they learned in the classroom. And I don't know how their teacher was. She created a magical situation. The students could speak with me without any problems, fluently. So this is then something that we need to take into consideration in today's English language classrooms. Okay, as I said, because it says on my title, 21st Century Skills, I just wanted to just very briefly, try to be brief, go to that and then come back to my presentation and finish by defining self-awareness in English language teaching. Okay. So when I went into 21st century skills, so the focus is more on the students, right? Okay, and change in the learning, the ecology of the learning environment, and more information technologies, learning, technology involvement in language teaching, collaboration, students reaching knowledge, and being prepared and different. We have a different perspective. What are some current trends? There's emphasis on process rather than product, on function over form. So we are not at the moment memorizing rules to learn English, and you're not doing that. You're not presenting only rules to your students, but you are interested in how they learn rather than this process of their learning, rather than giving them everything and taking them during the exam. Reliance on the richness and depth of authentic materials for all levels of language learning. We all kill ourselves to understand what authentic materials is, but at this point, it is very important, very vital to meaningful learning in the language classrooms. Performance-based assessment over assessment of factual knowledge and discrete skills. So we actually have different ways of, alternative ways of assessing our students. And we are focusing on different aspects of learning rather than just what is input, what is output, kind of, black and white way of approaching the learning. Creating lifelong learners and development of critical thinking skills in a multidisciplinary context. So in a way, we are tapping on teaching language meaningfully in relevant context. So in context, okay, and attracting our students' attention to topics which will remain for the rest of their lives. Like when you are introducing them the idea of organic farming, you may as well ask them to go to an organic farm or organic bazaar and check. And maybe that can be kind of an experience in their lives. In the future, they pay attention to that. Or other issues, other critical environmental issues. can be taken into consideration in the classroom during reading an article about this. And you may ask your students to go and check, what happens with, the protection of forests or green places or parks and etc. I mean, something very simple. Go to the nearest park in your home and write down interesting things that come up, like that you have seen there. Things like that. And student-directed, student-centered learning models over teacher-dominated instruction, so giving students more chances of using language and being more, giving more autonomy. Greater efforts to reach all language learning populations, learners with disabilities, adult learners, learners in remote locations, accommodate different learning styles and strategies, and so on. A more holistic approach to language education is one of the targets of this kind of an approach that moves beyond learning the forms of language to attaining communicative competence and developing cross-cultural insights and strategies for effective communication with other people. For example, what's happening today, as I said, there's more, the reality of immigration, and we have lots of multilingual, multicultural students around us, more and more. And when we are teaching English, we can also give our students this kind of an awareness, a critical perspective of their environment, of the people they communicate with, in order to create a more empathetic, understanding, collaborative future nations, people, and students. Okay, so there are 4 C's in 21st century skills, which focus on communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. All the points that I raised are in fact related to these 4 skills, 4 points, which are called as 4 C's of education. Okay. So this is something that I like to show you as well, which we use in our presentations. So there are things for us to remember: is collaboration, knowledge construction, self-regulation, problem solving, ICT for learning, and skillful communication. As you see, everything is related to collaboration, communication, and students' development of collaboration with each other. And we can definitely do that in any classes, but in language classes as well. Okay. So what does this bring to us? A new way of learning and teaching, in which learning as a social dialectic process of being, importance of authentic materials and activities, two-way interaction. So it's not only the teacher who speaks, but there's an interaction between teacher and students, students and students. Comprehensible input or meaningful input, meaningful output should be provided in 21st century classrooms. So we also need to develop optimal language learning environments where learners have opportunities to interact and negotiate meaning, interact in the target language with an authentic audience. And please, when I'm going to talk about English as a lingua franca, in such a language classroom, we can consider it as an English as a lingua franca context. So it is still an authentic context. It's a language classroom context where students use English as medium of communication. And learners are involved in authentic tasks. So give the learners some authentic tasks. I will give you 2 examples in a minute. Learners are exposed to and encouraged to produce varied and creative language. Please do not interrupt your learners when they try to say something about a topic you introduce them, even if they make mistakes. Give them a chance and then give them feedback afterwards, maybe by providing the correct forms. It's up to you. You are the teacher. You are skillful enough to catch those and then give them feedback. But not during the classroom. Let them speak, okay? Give them chances to speak. Learners have enough time, give learners enough time and feedback. Learners are guided to attend mindfully to learning process. So give them a process in which they are going to they are going to activate their mindfulness, try to create an atmosphere where they can develop an understanding of what might have been happening, for example, in that context to these people. Like talking about dolphins, you know, in a dolphin show, you enjoy it a lot. You love the dolphins there, but you don't know what happens before they become like this. They have to be separated from their babies. So many problems happen before they become so joyful for us. So, for example, maybe talking about this can be find more humanistic way of treating dolphins. Idea would be something the zookeepers will be angry about me, but at least your students will develop empathy towards, I mean, an understanding of what's happening before that and how we should appreciate what's happening and maybe do something about it. Learners' autonomy is supported, as I said. And I think I'm finishing this. Okay. So in the 21st century classroom, students are not passive learners. They are active participants within the learning process by creating content and making meaningful connections with their learning. Like, as I said earlier, if you are going to cover the topic of organic farming in your class that week, you can ask your learners to go to a bazaar and to an organic bazaar during the weekend before the lesson and check what's happening there and talk with the people, organic farmers, how they do it, how is it different from regular farming, and so on. And then when they come, maybe this could be the first thing you can ask them. What happened? Did you find any, did you learn how they are growing organic plants, etc.? And making meaningful connections with their learning. So you can use this as kind of a warm-up or introductory activities in your classroom before they come in. So kind of creating attracting their attention to something deeper into the topic in order for them to understand the topic. And also there's another thing I want to underline here, because I'm not going to give you the rest of this presentation, but in the rest, I talk about content and language integrated learning, where in fact, we want the learners to make connections. If you present organic farming for the first time in your class this week, without your learners knowing about it, they are going to struggle to understand what organic farming is. But if you ask them to go and search for what it is the week before as homework, they will develop their schema about the topic. And if you are lucky that there is a organic market during the weekend before class, they'll go and check and talk with people. You know how curious students are, young people are. So they are going to learn and then come to class knowing what organic farming is, okay, at least in Turkish. It doesn't matter. Then you don't worry about the constructs or the concepts. You just introduce the language in English. So they learn it now in English and they focus on language. So anyway, I'm not going to go into that detail at the moment. Okay, this is the last quotation. According to Thiessen, students need engaging and relevant lessons and supportive learning environment where they can advance at varied rates and in different ways. We know they need choices, challenges, respectful tasks, flexible grouping, and opportunities to take on leadership roles. You know how much they like to talk. But what you should not do is in the classroom, create chaos. Let them talk, but make them talk about the topic you are presenting, okay? Just to make sure that this is the case. I know how difficult it is, especially in secondary classrooms, but still, this could be your idea. By the way, these 4 C's was de Coyle's theory, okay? I just realized that I forgot to refer to it. Coyle, okay, C-O-Y-L-E. Okay, some sample materials about how to raise your learners' attention towards these critical issues, in addition to organic farming. For example, showing them such a picture and asking them what might have been happening here, like questions like this. What can you see? What does this picture show? What's happening? So you can ask them to activate their world knowledge, general knowledge, before presenting the reading. And you can ask them where these people are and what they might be saying, how they might be feeling, and how well do the people in the picture know each other, etc. from this one. And an activity can be, what are they doing? Do they like what they are doing? How often do you think they do this? What has just happened? Kind of questions. And then a follow-up can be, imagine you are in the picture. What would you be doing? What would you say to other person? Would you be enjoying being there? Why not? Why or why not? What question would you ask to person or people in the pictures? So, and then another one can be personalization. What does it remind you of? Have you ever been in a similar situation? How is the place in the picture similar or different, etc. This actually activity comes from a famous book series, National Geographic book series for language teaching. So this is an actual material. I didn't choose it on purpose because when I was working as an advisor to a school chain, I did have concerns about showing such pictures to students, especially teenagers, but they said, no, in fact, they like to listen to these topics. They feel that they are given value to. But obviously, there can be some sensitive issues in the case of your classes where you have immigrant students who, in fact, went through such cases. So as teachers, you have the chance to select or deselect some materials anyway, or subtract some materials anyway. But this actually is an extreme examples to give you an idea of what I meant by giving your learners kind of understanding beyond the topic that you are presenting. This is another example, okay? Can you imagine? I have seen, by the way, I have seen such a chaotic traffic in India, New Delhi, and then in Philippines as well. But New Delhi was crazy. They were even driving on the sidewalks, okay? And they were closing their side mirrors and so on. So anyway, showing such a picture. We have traffic jams in Turkey as well. So it's not something different. You can actually then ask your students to use this image you showed in an advertisement and write a short text. You are either a bicycle manufacturer, an environmental organization, service person, a company specializing in nature holidays, a manufacturer of electronic cars. So you can ask your learners to do a writing task like that, okay, based on that picture. So I am finished here. Okay, why did I show you all this? Because I wanted to come to a point where I introduce you why I have chosen to specialize on English as a lingua franca in relation to English language teaching. Because when you see that initially, people have an opinionated approach and they say, well, are we going to teach incorrect English? ELF is, you say that is the language that's spoken, it's a shared language that's spoken in multilingual, multicultural context where English is a medium of communication and people have different lingual cultural backgrounds. And why actually, why? And because this in fact brings me the perspective of how English is used among people from different language backgrounds successfully, for professional purposes and for social inclusion purposes. Because an example is when I went abroad for my graduate degree, I used English to communicate with everybody else who was English, American, French, Egyptian, I don't know what, actually Filipino, they were all from all over the world and we spoke English and we did not share a common language. So this is actually important, that how English was used as a vehicular language. But I'm talking about 1990s, beginning of 1990s. Today we are in the 21st century. Something happened. Okay, sorry. I don't know why happened. Okay. Okay. Okay, now. Okay. So, were in a professional, okay. Sorry, one moment. Okay, I cannot move. Why not? Okay. So in its earlier definitions of English as a lingua franca, as I said, it was a shared common language that was inherently multilingual, and it was a means of communication among peoples from different lingual-cultural backgrounds, and it was for future success and social inclusion. Jenkins, very recently, a prominent researcher in the field on ELF, she mentioned English. She, in fact, coined the term English as multilingua franca. Okay, where English is there in a context where people from different lingual-cultural backgrounds are present, but it is used as a contact language of choice, but not necessarily chosen. Because in such contexts, people might be using other languages that are in their linguistic repertoire. As a construct, true nature, okay, and she says it's a construct that reflects the true nature of English as a lingua franca or ELF in an all-inclusive way, as the majority of ELF users are multilinguals who may choose to move strategically in and out of various languages within their entire multilingual repertoires. So in our context, if you, we may not have many languages at once, maybe biologically from birth, but we may have learned many languages on the way. So for example, my third foreign language is French and then Spanish, and I feel myself kind of multilingual, but it's not that way. Actually, that my level of proficiency in each language is not the same, okay? It goes in a decreasing manner. It starts with English, French, Spanish, Italian, and so on, okay? So, but I can activate those languages when I need them while using English. In Italy, for example, I can activate my Italian knowledge. So in a way, we have all these linguistic repertoires which we may activate, whether we are biologically inborn in bilinguals, multilinguals or not. EMF also encompasses the processes of an individual's efforts to use all language resources and repertoires for successful communication, whose characteristics overlap with that of the theoretical concept of translanguaging. I strongly recommend those teachers in this group who have students from immigrant groups to read about translanguaging and Ofelia Garcia and Kanagaraja, with essential differences between the two constructs. Because in our case, when we talk about these immigrant students with different linguistic backgrounds, we are in fact referring to what's happening in your classroom can be a good case of translanguaging, actually, switching back and forth in languages. Okay. So as early as about 2013, we predicted, together with a colleague of mine, who is a prominent researcher and developer of the ELF awareness construct, in ELF awareness in ELT, and we said in the next decade, which is where we are living now, ELF-aware teacher education will become an important issue, not only for ELF theoreticians and educational practitioners, but also for ESOL practitioners. Introducing teachers ELF and World Englishes in their pre and in-service education, challenging their deeply seated convictions, functions of the English language, roles of its users, and the pedagogical implications that this phenomenon may have. Okay, at this time, this might be quite Chinese for you because it's too theoretical in a sense. But when you go deeper into it, and in the beginning, it was like that for me too. But later on, as we developed further into this topic, we in fact wanted teachers to be more critical about their English language teaching when approaching to their materials and so on. And initially, we thought about developing ELF-aware materials in the earlier stages of this research, but we still struggle to find that kind of materials in the field, which is actually emerging, but very slowly, okay? Emerging, but gradually. Okay, and later on in 2018, we in fact defined ELF-aware teaching in ELT as follows. the process of engaging with ELF research and developing one's own understanding of the ways in which it can be integrated in one's classroom context through a continuous process of critical reflection, design, implementation, and evaluation of instructional activities that reflect and localize one's interpretation of ELF construct. As I said, we may have our own interpretation of ELF, and it changes from one context to another. And in most of the cases, we live in a kind of an exam-oriented context, education context, because your students need to take exams in order to enter high schools, in order to enter universities. As teachers of English, we need to actually take this into consideration as much as concerning about our learners' future English language use skills like speaking, writing, etc. in English. But you can find a balance. You can still prepare them for these exams, but you can approach the topics you prepare from a different perspective. If you see this language teaching part of life, part of all these topics are very much related to life, and make your learners aware of this too in the language classroom, I guess even if you prepare them for the exam, you will still achieve some level of development in your students' conceptualization of English. And I claim that if we have such an approach, at the end, we will not end up with people like we have in Turkey today who are complaining about their English. And the people to be complained about are English teachers, us. Let's get rid of this idea. And we should be the first ones to see English is part of life. And what we are trying to do with our teachers is not turning them into a British or American English speaker. Our aim is to enable them to use English successfully in communication, in communicative context, I'm going to say, and you are going to be puzzled, what is this communicative context? In certain domains of communication, like for educational purposes, for business purposes, there are so many things, for our touristic purposes, lots of domains. So you need to have the understanding of what is communicative, what is communication context. So you have it, it's there. If your learners go to an English medium university, they'll use English for education, for educational purposes, okay. So there are 3 levels of ELF awareness, and then I'm going to talk to you about the project a little bit, change the topic. There are 3 major components of ELF awareness. The first level is awareness of language and language use, which you all have, okay? We all have this from the very beginning. From the very first day we learn language, and the very first day we start becoming a teacher in our university studies. Syntactic, it refers to knowledge of syntactic, morphological, lexical, phonological, pragmatic, and sociocultural features of English produced in interactions involving non-native users both inside and outside the English language classroom. So we need to be aware of this. As teachers, it is your responsibility to be aware of the fact that what your learners are doing outside the classroom. Not to police them, of course, but at least to use it in your language classrooms creatively, to turn this into a kind of, to turn your classroom learning in a kind of a creative, enjoyable activity for your learners too. As I said, the student I talked to, she loves her teacher, but she's not very happy about what's happening in the classroom because she watches videos. Maybe she wants to talk about that. I don't know. I mean, so many issues you can think about. And the second level of ELF awareness is awareness of instructional practice. So a major form of this component is awareness of teacher-centered practice, and it revolves around what teachers are doing in their classrooms and are not doing in their classrooms. And it includes the teacher's personal theories about instruction, corrective feedback, and about gauging and responding to learners' needs. And this is not, as I said, this is not very strange. You can relate it to what I already said, the topic choice, asking your learners to do pre-homework before you teach them what you're going to teach. Corrective feedback, not correcting their mistakes immediately, but using, let's say, other ways of correction. You need to read about corrective feedback. Lister and Saito is a good reference. And about gauging and responding to your learners' needs. As I said, maybe finding about your learners more, asking them what they are planning to do in the future, what their reason for learning English is, and so on. And the last one is awareness of learning. Refers to major impact of ELF communication and use have for learning. So English is our everyday has become part of everyday interactions in all different domains, and it's not only non-native speakers but also by native speakers of English. They communicate with each other in all contexts. Actually, you go to European projects with people from different countries, not one English L1 speaker is present, but you still use English. Always remember your European projects when you are teaching English, and then target your communicative activities like that in your classroom. Most often, students in the EFL classrooms use English, as I said that already, outside the classroom, and it plays a vital role in English language learning. Okay. So, ELF awareness in teacher education programs. In order to do that, actually, we have done many projects, and I don't want to go into too much in detail. I already talked about these. I just want to talk to you about these two projects. Which one? The first one I have conducted and carried out with a colleague of mine who, in fact, was working on this topic earlier than me. But with this project, we have adjusted and applied the idea of ELF-aware teacher education model into our a project which was supported by Boğaziçi University between 2012 and 2017. And then in 2018, we have had a continuation of this project. And this time, my colleague from Greece, Nikos Tifakis, and his colleagues, Stefania Cordia, Natasha Santila, and others, actually prepared the project, and we became a partner of it. And this project involved development of a continuous development teacher education platform. And it was based on needs analysis, and the whole process took place in an online environment. And this was before COVID. Can you imagine? And it was initially we thought of doing a blended learning CPD course. We had some face-to-face part of the course as well. And we are in the process of, and we finished it fully online. I was lucky to do one face-to-face meeting with my teachers, but then unfortunately after March, as you know, everything was online. And then it was appropriated and disseminated widely. Okay, and we wanted to promote teacher competencies. So we wanted the teachers to explore themselves, explore their potential of, in fact, how they can turn their already existing knowledge into a more up-to-date, more global English perspective knowledge. And so we wanted them to integrate ELF in multilingual classrooms and prepare learners to become successful communicators in the current increasingly multilingual and demanding world. And I want to thank İSTANBUL AKADEMİLERİ teachers who, in fact, some of whom, in fact, took part in this project, and thanks to them, this project, in fact, from the Turkish side, met the needs of multilingual classrooms, and we learned a lot from them. And there were some teachers whose classrooms were not multilingual, but they still were very enthusiastic about finishing the project and listening to their colleagues. We had lots of sharing meetings and so on. Okay. And the objectives were awareness, awareness of language use, networking. We were obviously at that time focusing on refugees and other migrants, and but because of the permissions and so on, we did not focus on students in the Turkish context. We only focused on teachers. Innovative ELT practices, culture, high quality education. we wanted to foster innovation, and we wanted to inform educational policy and inform research. Actually, we collected data from older students through a questionnaire. With the younger students, we did not carry out research with students because it was difficult to take permissions. Okay. Some examples of results of needs analysis. This is just one. I have 5 minutes for this one and 5 minutes for the other part. The aim was to investigate teachers and learners' perceptions of the current status of English, whether their teaching practice includes authentic uses of English, and how they address issues related to multilingual classrooms. And from the older kids, we actually learned that so many things from these interviews. And we had 5 countries, different language policies, language teacher, pre and in-service education practices, expected outcomes, age requirements, migration experiments, multilingual classrooms, etc. And the respondents were 620 L2 teachers from all over these countries. Actually, we had Turkey, Greece, Italy, Norway, Portugal in this project as the participating countries. And English language learners, adolescents between ages 14 to 18, we had 505 participants. And young learners, we had called them young learners because I had some disagreements at this point, but at the end we have agreed. They provided some evidence from literature that this group is called young learners. So between kids between 11 to students between 11 to 13, and there were 105 students because we collected data from this group through interviews, and the tools were online questionnaires, paper questionnaires, and focus group interviews. So we interviewed with the young learners in groups. Okay, so this was the situation. And the CPD course was the second phase, and we had 2 different phases of the CPD course. We wanted the teachers to increase their competencies as subject matter specialists, innovators, and autonomous thinkers, and agents of change. And we want to promote learners' key communicative and transversal skills, sense of belonging to a community of users of a shared language and local and wider European community. And obviously beyond European community and beyond, because Turkish context is the beyond context. If you are interested, you can have a look at this web page. I just want to give you some examples, and maybe if we have time at the end, we can have a look at the page. So some of the preliminary findings. So there were 3 phases of this project. And in the first phase, we designed the syllabus, materials and activities, and the Moodle platform. And in the second phase, we did some piloting. We did critical reviewing of 25 ELT teachers, refinement of CPD materials and activities, selection of participants. So actually from Turkey, we had 162 applications as participants. Normally in the project, in the original project, they asked us to have 15 minimum, 30 maximum teachers. So 161 was a great success, but we had to select 60 teachers and get them accepted. But at the end, only 15 teachers finished the whole project and got their certificates. And phase C was between February 20 and July 2020, implementation and evaluation. Okay. And this was the CPD course. And if you visit the web page, you'll see there were 30 sections, there were videos, PowerPoint presentations, transcripts of videos, supplementary materials, and the videos were actually voiced by all non-native speakers of English. It was actually basically voiced by ourselves. We had supplementary materials, glossaries, and so on. We had local mentors out of the groups of participants, groups of research groups in each partner country. We had 3 meetings, face-to-face and online with the teachers. I had more, actually. Our Turkish teachers were very enthusiastic. Even those teachers who did not finish participated in the project. Actually, out of 60 teachers, about 35 teachers did at least half of the course, okay? But because of these difficulties with the COVID-19 situation, they couldn't continue to finish it. And I can understand, we can understand that. We had Moodle mentors like ourselves, self-study and reflection, dialogue, that was like that mostly. And they could read each other's responses to some forum questions and so on. And it was a 300 course to finish. When you finish it, and you those teachers received a certificate who finished it, received a certificate of 300 hours. And of course, these kind of courses are not counted into ECTS at Boğaziçi University. So we have given them a certificate of participation. And there was an introductory questionnaire, 93 activities, out of which 28 was compulsory, and a final assignment and peer review. The peer review section was the most interesting. Obviously, we interviewed with our Turkish teachers. They in fact reviewed the final project of a teacher from a participant country, and they gave us feedback. And it was so nice to listen to their comments. Some of them found them quite, yeah, this is not really what we learned in this course, and such and such. And it was an interesting interaction. And 300 plus people enrolled. 249 were originally selected to participate. 76 did not carry out any activity. 77 carried out at least one activity. 96 participants out of 300 completed the course. So it is not a problem if we only have 15 teachers, which is good, actually, a good number out of 6 countries. Obstacles were, it was to achieve this participation. I will finish in a minute. It was very demanding, time availability, because as I said, there was a different frame, COVID-19 and lockdown, and unexpected online teaching loads on the teachers. And these are the some statistics. And I just want to give you some pictures from the Turkish context. We can talk about it in another time. Okay, this is the Turkish team, enriched team. And this is how we conducted our work. We started on 16, 17 January. We had a face-to-face meeting. We had a multiplier event with teachers coming. And at the moment, Sultan said she also came to our meeting and so on. And then the rest of them after January were online, okay? And these two, February 8 and February 22, they are all face-to-face. And on February 8, it was a snowy day. And despite it was a snowy day, we had 20 teachers out of 60 to come to Boğaziçi University and attend our meeting. It was such, yes, it was such a great thing. And then this is our pictures from those meetings, and then contact sessions. And these are during the phase of the project meeting. And this is at the end when we had online face-to-face meetings with teachers. And this is our schedule. We wanted to follow our teachers. We are going to have soon another meeting with them. We had to wait until our semester begins. And as you know, I became dean of the faculty, so things are a little bit difficult at the moment, but I will manage to meet them again and continue our journey. So finally, we follow Kumarova Divelius's post-method idea. Alpha-aware instruction is following it very much. So this means actually, what is appropriate for local context is the development of locally developed instructional materials. And it doesn't mean that, making Ali and Ayşe talk in English and present it to your English students. It's a different story. Maybe we can have another time to talk about it, but locally appropriate materials is important. Teachers should not blindly endorse a particular teaching methodology, but have an informed awareness of many different methodologies and work up to the competence to select and fine-tune the instructional approach that best fits their local context. This is also very important. And you can also develop your own teaching strategies. And this is the last slide. Alpha-aware in our pre-service education is worthy of investigation because it draws teachers, students, and teacher educators' attention to a reality that they may have not been previously aware of, and it can be considered as an opportunity for teachers' empowerment. So the more you realize that you are belonging to a larger group of English language teachers in the world, like the teachers in our project, the more you feel confident about your capability of teaching English in the best way, okay? And I believe in non-native teachers very much. And I believe in their strength since this is broadcast as well. And we can teach better than anybody else to our Turkish learners of English. And I'm sure we can become the best multilingual, best teachers who can teach in multilingual context as well in the near future. I want to finish with this. And if you have any questions or any comments, you can always find me. I think I forgot to put on my email, but anyway, I can send you my email later on. Okay.
Okay, Hocam, you were
Thank you
going
very much.
to, Hocam, thank you very much, but you were going to give an assignment for our teachers.
Of course, yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I already actually gave them some assignments, but anyway, I just want to share again. I think I closed my window. One moment. Okay, there's a video. There are some videos that I did not play, okay? My window is closed. Sorry, I'm not sharing. Okay. From David Crystal. And wait a minute. I don't know why my presentation page is closed by my computer. I don't know why. Okay.
Hocam, in the end, can we say that it's perfectly all right if we make mistakes while speaking? Still, we are a lot better, maybe not better, but a lot more competent in teaching English and in speaking English. And it's also our language as well as part of EFL, not EFL, ELF context.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I say let's not say mistakes, okay? Because in fact, we should not be afraid of speaking. We should not be worried about our accent or the way we speak. Actually, the important thing is for us to have enough. I don't think it is. It is something that we should be worried about. Okay, not being able to speak should be what we should be worried about. I just cannot share. Okay, so I don't think making mistakes is a problem, as long as we can communicate. Okay. Now, your homework is watching Jay Walker's video. Okay. Maybe we can talk about this mistakes part. We are, because we are speakers of English as a foreign language or as a second language, we always, I just want to have a screenshot of the questions actually. Sibel, are there any? I cannot see them. So please watch Jay Walker's video, which is called English Mania. Okay. And I want you to also have a look at an definition of alpha awareness in ELT. There are some articles that are present. And okay, I can send you my presentation. Maybe you can share it with your colleagues. And please comment on how English language teaching is different from China. And are there any similarities and differences between English language teaching in Turkey and in China? Because this is specifically an example from China, which Jay Walker also gives some statistics. And I would be very happy to read your reflections if you write them.
Okay, that's great, Hocam. So if you could send me your presentation, I'll pass it on to our friends. Okay. And then we can all talk and discuss about it. It's been great seeing you again and hearing you here on this platform. It was a great presentation. Thank you so much for your valuable contribution, Yasemin Hocam. We hope to see you again in our further meetings. Of course, as long as your time as long as your time is allowed, as long as you have enough time. It's a great pleasure and also honor to see you here. Thank you very much.
Can I ask one more thing? It was a great pleasure and honor for me too as well. Can I have the questions, the chat box section, so maybe I can write messages to people later on, because there are some questions here. Can I have the comments part?
Okay.
Can you send me?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
I also thank you, Yasemin Hocam. It was great to listen to the lecture from you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
Thank
everyone.
you for sharing
joining.
valuable ideas.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Hocam, did you get screenshot of?
Yes. Açabilir misiniz arkadaşlar ekranlarınızı?